repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
or even billions of the currency to buy even the most insignificant product. An example.
Okay, that was my boneheaded move. Thank you, Wendy. I probably just kept on going and not even realized it. I feel like a duck. Okay, so I was muted, and I'm a bonehead. So good morning, everybody. Walter asked me to do a show for him yesterday, and I'm doing Cancer Tickets today and Off-Grid Journey tomorrow. So I have some material from Ralph Epperson, the author of The Unseen Hand and several other books. And I want to share that and to be able to get that onto UCY and onto YouTube. So I guess I'll start over. I have a show I did with, I've done 2 or 3 with Epperson, and this one comes back from May 30th of 2013. And but I'm going to start off with a YouTube my brother created. It's called Creating Wars for Profit. And so I backed up here.
Now I know what you're thinking. How could this klutz get selected and that rulers are powerless to prevent?
Back to where I'm supposed to be. All right, here we go.
Let me start by briefly defining the 2 views of history. The first is called the accidental view of history, and this view holds that the major events happened by accident for no apparent reason, and that rulers are powerless to prevent them. Things just happen for no determinable cause. The second view is called the conspiratorial view of history, and this view holds that the major events happen by design after years of planning, for reasons not generally made known to the public. I first started my research in 1962, a couple of years after my graduation from the University of Arizona. I can assure you that what I believe today was not offered to me in any course I was enrolled in for 4 years of my life. It has come after the reading of over 1,100 books on both sides of this issue. And I would summarize my views today with these words. My research has proven to me that a huge, extremely powerful, worldwide conspiracy has been working to achieve absolute rule over the entire human race by using wars, depressions, inflations, and revolutions to achieve their aims. Let me give you a dictionary definition of the word conspiracy. A conspiracy is 2 or more people meeting in secret with an evil plan. And the next word I would like to define is the word inflation. It is an increase in the money supply, and it always causes a rise in the price level. So inflation has a cause and an effect. The cause is an increase in the money supply, and the effect is a rise in prices. I would next like to discuss another example of how money can be used to destroy. The word is called hyperinflation, where the supply of money is increased so rapidly to such an extent that it takes millions or even billions of the currency to buy even the most insignificant product. An example of hyperinflation is occurring right now in Zimbabwe, the African nation formerly known as Rhodesia. This is a picture of a Zimbabwean trillionaire holding up a 100 trillion Zim dollar in January 2011. The tourist in Zimbabwe can purchase one for $5 American. That is an example of how money can be used to destroy an economy. There is an opposite word that I would like next to define, and that is the word deflation. A deflation is a decrease in the money supply, causing prices to drop. President James Garfield addressed the issue with this comment: whoever controls the volume of money is absolute master of all industry and commerce.
Okay, and with that there, I'm going to stop at that point, and I'm going to bring in my broadcast with Ralph Epperson back in May 30th of 2013, and we'll pick that up, and then we'll come back to let's kind of outline there for how the world's being controlled, of course, is with the petrodollar, the Federal Reserve, which everybody listening here knows that it's not federal and there's no reserve. And I got terrible background noise, so I don't know why, but that sucks. Here goes.
Well, you're very kind, Vincent. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and people on their way through, or perhaps sometimes they come to Phoenix, and they want to meet, so I can meet them halfway. There's a city called Toltec halfway between Tucson and Phoenix, and I'll drive up and they'll drive down. But I'm always flattered. I'm always pleased to meet people that want to, specifically see me or talk to me, so that's fine. So anytime I get a chance to do that, I do that. I've been researching this since 1962, 63 maybe. I've read over 1,000 books, and that's probably for someone that's really a bookaholic, that's not very many, but these are books on both sides of this issue. I've been researching this. I started doing a talk show myself in 1973 for 3 years in Portland, part-time. I was teaching in a community college. Then I wrote my first book in 1985, The Unseen Hand. That's what we'll talk about today. I've written 3 other books since then, and perhaps we'll discuss those during the course of this interview. But and I do lectures whenever I can. I got a chance to go to San Diego for the paranoia thing. We're working on that. That'll be in July sometime. I'm looking forward to that as well. San Diego's probably 400 miles away, and it's an easy drive. Anyway, I do what I can to get people. By the way, let me say that my sole purpose is education. Yes, I'm trying to get people aware of just what's happening in America, and that's my purpose.
That's great. Am I sounding an echo?
No, I don't hear any echo.
Anybody in chat, is it sounding good? We'll ask them. Anyways, let's start off about the founding, about the time the country was founded. There's kind of a double founding there. We was set up as a free country under as sovereigns with common law, and but there were some back doors put in place, I believe, there, and we ended up with a country where we're a corporation and we're no more than property. So let me just let you start out. Then let's start about the time of the founding of the country and work up in towards the Civil War.
Let's do that, and I would like to keep it very simple, as I taught in my community college class. I started with a dictionary definition of a word, and then that led into a study of history, and we'll see why in a few minutes. I have my Webster's in front of me, and I'm looking up the word inflation. Inflation is defined as an increase in the quantity of money, and it always produces a rise in the price level. Now, what does that mean? When I was in college at the University of Arizona, I was taught inflation was caused by people. Now, that means that I have the power to create money? No. If I turn on a printing press and print dollar bills, it's called counterfeiting, and I go directly to jail. So I don't have the power to print paper money or increase the money supply, but somebody does. And we're going to talk about that. Because once you understand what inflation is and how important it is to people that want to run banks that have the power to print paper money, then American history will make some sense up to the Civil War. Now let's go to the next question. If you've got the power to increase the money supply, and that will cause a price rise, you've also got the power, or should have the power, to decrease the money supply. And the way to do that, the way you do that is pull money out of circulation, and that causes prices to go down.
Well, now we're talking about the engine right here that drives this beast, and that's the private banking. And these interests go back to ancient times where they started out as bullion traders, and then they worked it into deposit receipts and started issuing those for money. And that's where we're up to. We'll come up to that in 1913, where the Federal Reserve Act was enacted at that time. Yeah, go ahead about the private bankers that control the world.
Not quite ready for that, Bruce. Let me go back to
Okay.
my chain. So now, if you want to make money in the economy, you've got to get control of the money supply, so that when the quantity is low, you can buy stocks and then raise the quantity of money till prices go up, and then sell, and then at the top, and then start calling the money supply in, and then when it gets down to the bottom, you buy, and then you can sell, and this is the way to make money. Now, you've got to have a monopoly on this, because if everyone can do this, then that's going to defeat your purpose. So you've got to be able to know when the money supply is going to increase and when it's going to decrease.
And it helps if you're manipulating the events that cause that to happen.
Okay. So now we admit then that the way to make money in the stock market or in the economy is to control the money supply and to exclude competitors, so that only you have the power to increase the money supply and then decrease it. And when you do that, you can make fortunes. Now let's see if we can find out who does have the power in America. I have a book entitled The Federal Reserve System, published by them, and it was given to me when I was in college. It's published by the Federal Reserve, and here's what it says. On page, hold on, I'm flipping pages here. Here at the very first page of the book, it says, the function of the Federal Reserve. An efficient monetary mechanism is indispensable to the steady development of the nation's resources and a rising standard of living. The function of the Federal Reserve is to foster a flow of credit and money that will facilitate orderly economic growth, a stable dollar, and long-run balance in our international payments. So the question is, have we had a stable dollar, orderly economic growth, and long-run balance in our international payments? And the answer is no.
We have about 98% of the dollar gone since 1913, I'd say.
Okay, please, let me continue with my thought. I'm trying to go on. I'm laying down some track that's going to start to make sense in a few minutes. We're laying down definitions so that we can understand why people want to get control of the money supply. If you get in the banking business, you can make fortunes. You buy when it's low and you sell when it's high. And if you know when it's going to be high and low, you can make a fortune. That's the advantage. Now, when you go to college, you're not taught that inflation is caused by bankers. It's caused by people. We, the people. It's caused by unions. It's caused by housewives. It's caused by shortages when people don't grow enough or produce enough. This is wrong. And the inflation is caused by the money supply. You and I cannot increase the money supply. When we do so, it's called counterfeiting, and we go directly to jail. Now, the government can do that through this Federal Reserve because they're going to foster a flow of credit and money. Now, let's start in our study with that knowledge. Well, let me read. Well, no, we'll take that in a minute. Let me get into the American system. The Constitution gives Congress the power to coin money. Now, what's that for? It doesn't say print it, it says coin it. We were on the gold standard, which means we found gold. You take it to an assay office, they determine how good it is, and they melt it down and give you back coins that you could use to buy things. Of course, this would cause an increase in money supply. Increase in money supply causes prices to go up. So finally, people start developing more gold, and or maybe they're short and the prices go down again. But this is allowing the people to decide what the money supply is going to be. So we had to get off of the gold standard onto the paper standard. Now, the paper standard is one that's you issue money printed on paper, and then you can create it out of nothing and then loan it to the government at interest. That's the advantage of a central bank. Now, let me tell you let me give you a warning from Thomas Jefferson. I think he was our third or fourth president. He said this: "It is incumbent on every generation to pay its own debts as it goes, a principle which, if acted upon, would save 1/2 of the wars of the world." Wait a minute. What does he mean by that? Well, let's examine that. Why can central people that get central bankers, which are an exclusive monopoly granted by government, having the ability to print paper money and loan it to the government at interest? How can that cause wars? Well, here's how. Notice the bankers print paper money out of nothing, loan it to the government at interest, which means the government's got to pay them back and pay the interest payments. So let's just make up a little story. The banker goes into the government, the king, and says, "Hey, king," and this, of course, is very simplified, the Hollywood version, the Epperson version, but I think it'll be fun. Goes into the king, you owe me the first payment on the installment of the portion of the loan I made you plus the interest, and the king says, "I'm not going to pay you." Now, wait a minute, king, you don't seem to understand. It's a contract we signed. You got to pay me. He said, "Listen, I'm the king. I don't have to do anything. If I snap my fingers, 7 guards will come running in, and you're in jail." No, don't do that, king. Let's compromise. We'll get together next week, and we'll work something out. So here's the key. The banker goes to government B and says, "Hey, government B, I was in the office of the kingship talking to the king of government A, and he's getting ready to attack you." Well, oh my gosh, I don't have any way to protect my government. I have no power to tax money or create money. What am I going to do? And the king says, the banker say, "I know what we'll do. You give us an exclusive monopoly, and we'll loan you the money. You can pay us back at interest, and then you can raise an army and protect your government and save it." Because what do you foreclose on a king? Remember, you loaned him money way beyond any value that he might have. The crown, maybe a jewelry or something. What do you loan on? When you borrow on a car, the car is your collateral, which means I promise to pay you back, and if I don't pay you, you can come and get the car, and you can sell it, and then cover the losses or the amount that I owe you. Or if you mortgage your house, the house is the collateral, which means you pay it back. If you don't make your payments, the bank takes over your house. What do you do when you loan to a king? What, you get the crown, you can sell it for 100 ounces of gold, that's about it. But the way to do it is the thing called balance of power politics. And this is where the bankers control government A and government B. And so
C, D, and F, and all the way to Z.
Let's just use A and B to keep it simple.
Yeah, okay.
You, Vince, is you get government B, you loan him the money, he raises an army. Now you got a war going, and boy, that really raises the revenue because King A is afraid he might lose and lose his kingdom to King B, and King B's afraid he might lose. This is what Jefferson said. If you have a central bank, if you don't have one, you can save 1/2 of the wars of the world. And that's the reason why. Now look at the history of Europe. I'll make this very quick. It's been a series of conflicts between Spain and England and France and Spain against Germany and Germany and England against Spain, or whatever it is. That's ad nauseum because there are central banks in all of those governments and they're fighting wars to make money.
Right.
Jefferson tried to warn us. Now, let's see whether or not that's what's happened in America. Now, we declared our independence on July the 4th, 1776, and we started a war. The English came to fight us. We were trying to declare our independence, and there was a war. So now what do? We don't even have a government. We create one in 1787, and we're fighting a war. Now, how do we pay for it? George Washington became our first president. He says, I don't have any taxing power, very limited taxes. How am I going to pay for the war? Well, the issue was from Alexander Hamilton, what we'll do is create a central bank with an exclusive monopoly, with the power to issue paper money, to loan it to the government at interest, and you'll pay us back. So Washington he created the first bank of the United States. Now, as a compromise with those who said don't, like Jefferson, don't create a central bank, tax the people, he lost and Hamilton won. The first bank of the United States was created in 1791 with a 20-year charter.
Exactly, yeah, and there were two of them before the Federal Reserve, and they all had expiration dates, and the Federal Reserve has no expiration. I think it had come up a year or two back here, and it just went on. It was like a 99-year lease or something, you know.
Well, Vincent, I'm sorry. I'm trying to explain it step by step for those that are trying to see this very simply what's going on in America. And let me finish now.
Okay.
So we had the war. We had a bank that expired in 1791. I'm sorry, 1811. The bank was expired. I think it was James Monroe used to renew the charter. So the bankers lost. The central bank, the first bank of the United States, expired in 1811. What happened in 1812? A war of 1812. With who? With England. And now we got another problem. How do we fund this war? So, in 1816, we created a second central bank called the Second Bank of the United States to pay for the war debt. Now, that was once again given a 20-year charter from 1816 to 1836. Well, wait a minute. Andrew Jackson was reelected in 1832. And he ran on a very simple platform. He said bank and no Jackson, or Jackson and no, bank and no Jackson, or bank, I got to reverse, bank and no Jackson, or Jackson and no bank. In other words, if you elect me, I'm going to kill the Second Bank of the United States. And he did. And there was the first attempt of an assassination of an American president on Andrew Jackson in, guess what, 1836. So the Second Bank, it failed. Jackson survived, and the Second Bank died a natural death. So now we're free of central banks. Oh my goodness. Now they said the central bankers in Europe, the banks that own the various nations of France and England, Spain, all over there, those countries in Europe, said we got to have another way to force America into a central bank. So guess what? The central bankers formed an organization called the Knights of the Golden Circle in 1837, the year after the central bank expired. They paid, hired people to go to America to spread secession on the issue of slavery, to fire up the United States into causing a war between the North and the South. Now let me go back and cover something. The English government learned in the War of 1812 that America was building a navy. Now they've got a 3,000-mile ocean to supply their troops. If they sent troops over here to fight the war of 1830 or 20, whatever it was, they've got a major problem. Because if America has a navy, they couldn't get their supplies from Europe to fight the war. America had very little navy in the War of 1812. So they said, wait a minute, we better get someone else to fight the war. Well, we'll try Mexico or Canada, and they were too small and had no central bank. So they said, what can we do? Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll use slavery as the issue to get the South to secede, and then we'll fight a war between the North and the South. This war was planned by the European bankers in at least 1837. 14,000 members of the Knights of the Golden Circle came to America, or at least started recruiting, got people fired up over the issue of slavery, and sure enough, The war started in 1861. Lincoln, who was just elected in 1860, he said, what do I do? I got the same problem Washington had, the same problem Jefferson, whoever it was, had. I don't have any way to pay for this. I have very little taxing power. So guess what? The European bankers showed up and walked into Lincoln's office. This is, once again, the Emerson version. Simply said, hey, this is the way I say it. Hey, Lincoln, we see you got this war. Oh, yeah, terrible thing. I got a war fighting the South. They're going to start attacking the North, and I don't even have an army. Got to raise an army. And how do I pay them? Well, gee, we're in the loaning business. We can loan you money at 36% interest. Do you understand? That would be fantastic. They could issue the American money, have a central bank with exclusive monopoly, and they can make money on paper money issued out of nothing at 36% interest. And Lincoln said, no, I'm not going to do that. He issued the greenback dollar, which was not backed by gold. It was not borrowed. Do you understand? Lincoln had outfoxed the European bankers.
He did.
Dollar was not backed by gold. It was used by Lincoln he made it legal tender. You had to accept it if you're going to sell horses to the cavalry or food or blankets or guns or ammunition. You had to take greenback dollars. And you knew that it was only a piece of paper, no gold behind it, no guarantee it would ever be bought with gold. So the greenback caused major problems with inflation. But Lincoln saved us multi-billions of dollars of interest by not accepting the banker offered by the European bankers. Now, what happened to Abraham Lincoln? 1865, a few weeks or just a matter of days after the war ended, John Wilkes Booth walked into the Ford Theater. The man who was supposed to be guarding the backside of Lincoln was not at the door, strangely enough. So Booth was able to walk in behind Lincoln, fired a shot into his head, and Lincoln was dead, assassinated. Booth jumped down to the stage, got away, and escaped. We'll cover that in a minute. Now, Lincoln paid John Wilkes Booth was a member of the Knights of the Golden Circle, the group the European bankers had created to start secession movements in the United States to fight the South. Another member of the Knights of the Golden Circle, of particular note, was Jefferson Davis, the head of the Confederate Army. Now, one more thought while we're here. The South seceded. They seceded, each one independent of the other, so that if the South had won the war, it would be a confederacy, not a union, which means each of the individual states could have their own central bank. And then we could repeat, the central banks would be owned by the Europeans, and we could have the Bank of Georgia fight the Bank of South Carolina, and South Carolina and Texas, or wherever it is, attack Alabama, and then Alabama and Arkansas. You see what they were planning?
Yes.
Fortunately, the South lost. And the way they lost was because Lincoln realized the way to win any war is to blockade the ports, because they were importing their goods to fight the war. The South was an agrarian society. They grew cotton. They might have had a couple of small arms manufacturers, but they didn't have cannon and guns and rifles, so they were importing them from Europe, from England and France. Now, how would they get them through if Lincoln issued a blockade? He did, and it was successful. And in 1863, Lincoln signed a deal with the Tsar of Russia, who sent his fleet to the north and to the east and west coast. They went primarily to the north. His Atlantic fleet went to Baltimore and New York City, and the other fleet, the Pacific fleet, went to San Francisco. Now, the reason the Tsar was able to do that was because Russia had no central bank. You see how easy that is? So Lincoln looked in Europe to get an ally to help him because France and England were building huge blockade running ships, and Lincoln needed an ally. It was called Russia. So they sent their fleet, and when England discovered the Tsar of Russia, who had the largest navy at the time in the world, they realized the game was up. They canceled the orders, and the blockade started to wear down. So in essence, the war was coming to an end in 1863. Do you understand? I just linked the American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Civil War, because of the desire of the European bankers to create a central bank in America that would be sustainable and live forever. And they finally got it in 1913, as you pointed out, with the passage of the Federal Reserve. Now, let me throw this at you. Maybe you already know this, Vince, and maybe some of your listeners do. But if they don't, just listen. In fact, use this argument. It's not federal. Oh, yes, it is, Ruff. It says in the name, Federal Reserve. Come on. No, it's not. Now, there's two ways to find this. One way is to try to get their phone number. Well, you go to the blue pages in your phone book under the U.S. government, and you look for F under the F for farming, Department of Farming, or wherever it is, and you're looking. There's no listing for the Federal Reserve. Well, wait a minute. Of course, or maybe it's under the Department of Treasury. You'll check that. No, it's not listed there. Or maybe the Internal Revenue Service. No, it's not listed there. Or maybe in the Department of Army, not listed there. And so you conclude that the Federal Reserve has no telephones. That's the only conclusion you can draw if they don't have phone listings in the blue pages. So what, as a last-minute resort, you can go to the white pages, and you'll find it listed in the white pages with privately owned businesses like Federal Express. Federal Express is not federal. It's privately owned, just like the Federal Reserve is. Well, who owns the Federal Reserve? Well, we don't know. We can't find out. There have been bills to audit the Federal Reserve introduced. Ron Paul ran on a platform in the 2012 election. Yeah, let's audit I'll call it what it is, the private reserve. And those bills were always defeated. Why? Why? Because it's owned by bankers that we can't account for. We don't know who owns the central bank that's got the power to make fortunes, to start wars and end wars ad infinitum. So now the Civil War is over. So they still didn't have their central bank. Lincoln didn't create one, so they had a problem. They started creating artificial panics. The first one was in 1879. The next one was in 1897. And then they finally got the third one, the passage of the Private Reserve Bill in 1913. Now, what's an artificial panic? They just call in wherever money they can, take them out of circulation, tell banks not to issue loans anymore, and suddenly there's an artificial panic. And the lesson was clear. We need a central bank. And guess what? We created one in 1913, and it's been permanent. They got what they wanted. After 3 major wars and at least 2 major depressions or recessions in America, they finally got what they wanted. Well, the third one was 1907. I'm sorry. I forgot that. Do you understand, Vincent? See how simple it is? What you can see and understand once you understand what a central bank is and what money is. Now, let me confirm all this, then you can throw questions if you wish. I want to go to a book written by John Maynard Keynes. Now, when you go to college, you college kids know this name. John Maynard Keynes is the economist we all study, and I studied him when I was in college at the University of Arizona. We got his writings out. He told us all about what he thought economics was. He wrote a book called The Economic Consequences of the Peace. Well, that's the subtitle. The major topic is the end of laissez-faire. Well, what is laissez-faire? The free enterprise system. Now, This is where the next step, where the bankers, the college professors don't want to talk about what John Maynard Keynes said in this book written in 1920. And you'll not find, I don't think you'll find this in any textbooks. You'll find out how John Maynard Keynes taught that we got to create central banks and we need to have loaning money when there's recessions, and to get them out of the recession we'll loan money, and then finally we'll slow it down, and we'll control the economy, and we'll stop these recessions and depressions. But I'm going to open it up to page 105. Now, I'm going to read two short paragraphs. Now you say, for those of you who've got a copy of the book, it's called The End of Laissez-Faire, The Economic Consequence of the Peace by John Maynard Keynes. Let's read what he says. Lenin. Now let's talk about who's Lenin. John Maynard Keynes knew Vladimir Lenin, the communist who took over Russia in 1917. So John Maynard Keynes was a supporter of Vladimir Lenin, the communist, Marxist communist who took over the Russian government in 1917. Lenin is said to have declared that the best way to destroy the capitalist system was to debauch the currency. Huh? What? We're going to destroy the capitalist system? How? We're going to debauch the currency. How do you do that? Well, he tells us. By a continuing process of inflation, governments cause inflation? That's not what you're taught in college. I know, I was there. We're taught the consumers cause it, unions cause it, our farmers cause it, or housewives, or shortages, or foreign nations. Never talk about governments doing it. Well, here's their number one economist admitting governments do cause inflation by a continuing process of inflation. Now, let me tell you how they do this. They can confiscate secret and unobserved an important part of the wealth of their citizens. Wait a minute. They're stealing, unobserved, an important part of the wealth? Yes. The people don't understand what's causing inflation. It's being done by the government, or if you will, a central bank controlled by the government, or the other way around. Then he goes on to say, by this method, they not only confiscate, but they confiscate arbitrarily. And while the process impoverishes many, it actually enriches some. Well, wait a minute. We're justice. We're all equal in the United States. If it happens to one guy, it happens to another. Notice some people are getting enriched by inflation. Well, who are those people? They're the people that know when they're going to increase the money supply and when they're going to decrease the money supply. So they make money, and you and I, the dummy Americans, we say, oh my God, another recession. Oh, don't worry about it. Government will solve it. And when they do, have another recession, and then another one, and that's what it is. And all the time that's happening, some people are getting enriched by the government. Now here's the second paragraph. Lenin was certainly right. In other words, he's agreeing. There is no subtler, no surer of overturning the existing basis of society than to debauch the currency. The process, the last sentence, the process engages all the hidden forces of economic law. Now, what does that mean? Inflation is an economic law. It says it will always occur. A depression will always occur when you decrease. It happens no matter whether you're in China, America, Ethiopia, Brazil, Russia, Denmark. It happens all over the world. The process okay, I read that. On the side of destruction, and does it in a manner which not one man in a million is able to diagnose. That's the end of the quote. Now let's ask, what does he mean by that when he says not one man in a million's able to diagnose the cause of inflation? Because the college professors and the textbooks are all telling us that you and I cause inflation. If we don't, if we could totally stop causing shortages or causing prices to go up, we're greedy. We keep that, and once we do that, we cause inflation. We're the ones that do it. No, he just told us that the government does this by inflation of the money supply, and it benefits some people, but not everybody. See how simple this is? Once you understand it, it explains American history up to the passage of the Federal Reserve in 1913. Now, where did I get this from? This is all covered in my book, The Unseen Hand, that I wrote in 1985. It came as a result of lectures I gave to a class in economics at community colleges in Oregon for 3 years, and I taught thousands of students the truth, and they learned it from me, and I taught like I just did right here, simply explaining what the thing was and how it works, and how now they are one of the ones in the one of a million that know what causes inflation. Vincent, isn't that simple?
Pretty simple.
And you see how simple this is? Once you understand this, you can understand what happened to America. We fought 3 wars because the central bankers planned 3 wars. We had at least two major recessions caused by 3 actually, 1907, caused by the private bankers in America until they got what they wanted passed in 1913. Oh, the American people demanded it, did they?
Not quite.
Yeah. I'll comment on this. The bill was passed, and the House and the Senate were out of session. So I'm told there wasn't even a quorum to vote. And when they came back, they said, "Well, what happened? It passed the Federal Reserve bill." Well, I didn't vote on that. Well, we had a quorum and we elected. We did it while you were all having a Merry Christmas. The Reserve bill, and it's been created for perpetuity. Can you understand what happened in America in the early days of our government and how important inflation is and getting control of the money supply and why we got to get back on the gold standard? We're on a paper standard. And as long as they got trees, they can keep increasing inflation. Okay?
Awesome.
Let me tell you one more little thing. Let's talk a little more time. I take a couple of minutes.
You bet. I'm sure everybody's loving you in the chat room in here, saying what great history and yeah, you keep it going.
You got my ear.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
Let's talk about the crash of 1929. Everybody remembers this. Let's go back to 1920. There was a major recession. In fact, it was called a depression. 1920. That depression was solved in less than 1 year, from 12% unemployment in 1920 to 2.4% at the end of 1922. Warren G. Harding solved a depression in less than 2 years, from 12% unemployment to 2.4%, by doing exactly the opposite of Barack Obama. Wait a minute. No, Barack cares. He cares for the people. No, he's not doing anything to solve a recession with 7 or 8% unemployment when Harding had 12% unemployment, and he created a turnaround in less than a year. It was down to 5.6, and at the end of the second year, it was 2.4%.
Cost him pretty dearly, didn't he?
Yes. Well, we don't know for sure. All we know is that Harding, I think, went to a banquet and never came away.
Yeah.
I don't know that he was poisoned, but Harding, we do know he died in office. That's
I
all.
only suspect he they pay with their lives, or they're discredited, or any number of ways to they have to operate, and they have been operating for thousands of years, in my opinion. I know you and I share a lot of the same views as far as this conspiracy and how far it goes back, but it's not necessary to prove that. All we've got to do is look here in recent history, and even shortening that up, if you'll just look back for the last 20 to 50 years at least, and you'll see how every event has been contrived, and it's the same game. They keep playing the same hand over and over and over and over, and it's a winning hand. So you don't change your hand while you're winning, I guess.
I would urge you and your listeners, if you haven't already watched it, go find a DVD that I put up a couple of years ago. I don't know when it was, a year or two ago, called "Abolish the Federal Reserve." All of what I just explained to you is all documented with the pictures and the books and the pages and everything you need. And watch. I think it's a couple, 3 hours long, but watch that. It'll make enormous sense, and it'll explain why we got into the World War I, actually the American Revolution, the War of 1812, and the Civil War, and finally with the passage of the Private Reserve in 1913. By the way, I'm on a one-man crusade. You have to call it what it is. Let's call it the Private Reserve, because that's what it is. And we can't find out who owns it.
No. I'm getting your link, and I'm going to drop it in chat right now. It's Ralph Epperson. You just do a search engine for Ralph Epperson. You're going to come up with that.
I haven't put a dash between Ralph and Epperson.
Yes, there is a dash between it, and that's how it reads on the .com. But
my name.
RALPH-EPPERSON, and that'll bring you to his page right there. And there's several. Well, there's at least a couple of videos on there. A good 8 hours of viewing right there. Some good stuff, and a listing of everything else that he's produced. There's his book, The Unseen Hand. That's about a Bible, I think, for a lot of truthers, and it's really, I think, been influential for so many people to get an inkling of what's going on, and it's the best place to start for anybody that's not aware of what's going on.
I know it's nearly 500 pages, but if I could share these with you, all the letters I get from people saying I didn't want to read it, and I picked it up and I couldn't put the darn thing down. So but here's what you can do. Go to eBay and type in search the Unseen Hand, and then at the end of the line it says what class, and put in books. So the Unseen Hand books. And click on that, and the reviews of the book will come up. At least there were a year ago, and last time I checked in 2012, there were 6 reviews. And I couldn't even write them better myself. That's how good they are, in my opinion. You'll have to decide yourself. But I want you to know, please, you'll have to trust me. I had nothing to do with any of those reviews except writing the book. But please read the comments like, this has got to be the best history book I've ever read in my life. Everyone in America should read this book. Read that, and then get a copy of The Unseen Hand. Now, if you want to get it, it's on my catalog. Amazon.com sells it. People are selling it on eBay. There's 10 or 12 people selling it on Amazon.com. You can buy a used copy, whatever you want. I sell it through my catalog. If you want a retail copy without a damaged cover, there's all sorts of ways to get the book, but I urge you. And then underline it, and then read it again, or at least read the underlined parts. I'll tell you one more quick story. Right after I wrote the book, a couple of years later, I was dating a girl and lived in Phoenix. And I brought her down to Tucson to meet a couple friends of mine, married couples, friends of mine, and we went out to dinner. And she was reading The Unseen Hand. And so she asked the wife of my friend, you going to read Ralph's book? She said, oh, no, I don't have any interest in politics. It's way beyond me and economics. She said, oh, you got to read the book. She said, let me tell you this. She said, I started underlining all that was important. She said, I noticed I was underlining almost the entire book. So I started underlining that which was not important. That's the book is. It's very easy to read. It'll walk you through it. High school students, even down to sophomore year in high school, all the way to PhDs have praised that book. I had a call from a PhD who had a double PhD, said, if you submitted that book as a doctoral thesis without any changes, I'd give you an A.
I'd give it an A for sure.
Well, that's a lot of people saying I'm grateful for that because I wrote it with only the intention of making it simple, easy to follow, just like I did with our explanation of the American Revolution, War of 1812. So that's the way I do things. It's laid out pretty much in chronological order. But, of course, I cover the Russian Revolution, Chinese Revolution, Cuba as well. So,
well, you know where I actually got started was with your 27-hour, the one you did on public access channel there in Tucson.
That's still available. It's called Secrets of History. It's on my catalog. It's not on the internet, but you can get it through my catalog, very reasonably priced. I had
that. I mean, 27 hours, and you got a history lesson. I would recommend that. And then after watching that, I got your book. You sent it to me, and you signed it for me in Tucson. And that's been about 20 years ago when I believe when I watched the video presentation.
Ran on television and access for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And it's strange. I got very little response during the time it was running, except one time a couple times I went into a used bookstore and people recognized me. And boy, they were critical. I said, hey, that's silly. And I said, wait a minute, come back. I said, I got the books to make that video. Here it in Bookman's. You can read the same books I read. And they wouldn't want to discuss it with me. They said they thought I was stupid. Now wait a minute. Wait a minute. These are the books you can buy yourself. I got most of them here at Bookman's, used bookstore. We had it way back, probably 25 years ago. We had a grocery, like supermarket sized used bookstore open up, and boy, that was a great source. The guys now got like 3 of them, I think, in there, Tucson, and a couple in Phoenix. Used bookstores. That's a good source of material and a very reasonable price. He sells the books for half cost, I think. I'm not endorsing. I'm just saying if you want to go to used bookstores, you can get these books oftentimes.
You bet.
So I urge you, get a copy of The Unseen Hand. If that's new to you, then get the 27-hour lecture series, Secrets of History. You can watch it. Those tapes were made on a 3/4-inch VHS tape in the studio. They were then converted to a 1/2-inch. I've got those as my masters. So that's already the 2nd generation. And then I make the 3rd generation on a DVD. And then I make a copy of the DVD. So they're starting to deteriorate. They're not quite as... The sound is still perfect, but some of the pictures get a little dark. But if you're buying it because you want to learn, this is still the place to go.
Absolutely. Mr. Jefferson, I really appreciate having you on. And perhaps we can get you back in the future.
Anytime you call, Vincent, I'll be happy to assist. By the way, one last comment. My name and phone number is on my website. If people want to call me and comment or be critical, or please keep in touch. Thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Well, that was an awesome round, bringing everything around for me. That is, I guess, where I started, and I've come back to that starting point, the big old circle, and I've chased a lot of stuff down, and I ain't got the answers for a whole lot of things yet. But you know what? I'm pretty satisfied. I've got a good understanding of how things work.
Okay, and that was back May 30th, 2013, with Ralph Epperson, with me on What Matters Worldwide here on UCY.TV. I have some more. I'll tell you what. Now, I called Ralph 20 odd years ago. called information back before the days of computer, and I got his phone number in Tucson, and we talked a great many times over the years, and I was telling the story then on air. I started driving a truck back in '99 and heading back and forth California on some of them West Coast turnarounds. I called him, and he come down the Triple T truck stop there in Tucson on Interstate 10, and we sit down and had a glass of iced tea, and I brought my book, the Unseen Hand, that he had sent me. Matter of fact, it's when I got rheumatoid arthritis, and I was not working for just a few months, and I went to truck driving school. And anyways, I'd watched the 27-hour video presentation that was done on public access there in Tucson, and I had corresponded with him, and he sent me the book free of charge. And so anyways, when I did meet him there in Tucson and we sat down, I brought my book, he signed that, and I bought a couple other of his books, The New World Order, and one on the Masonic conspiracy of Christianity. I probably know more about the Masonic Lodge, I'll bet you, than most Masons. I've got friends here in Masons, and you know what? Anybody that says a Mason is Satanist or in league with this New World Order conspiracy, the old world order, it is misinformed. Now, you might argue that with me, but my personal experience says that that is not so. War is a racket, isn't it, Banjo? Thanks, Jax, everybody in chat. So anyways, I'm about 2 weeks into this. It's turns out, I guess it's upper respiratory virus, and I ain't done nothing for it, and I keep smoking. If I wouldn't been smoking, but I've only smoked 2 packs of cigarettes in a week, so that's a whole lot less than what I normally do. But if I wouldn't been smoking, it'd probably be cleared up, so I have no one to blame but myself. Anyways, I'm doing Cancer Kickers later today at 5 o'clock on the East Coast. I think Daniel Lewis Crumpton may join me, and we're going to be talking about the fraud of the cancer treatment industry. I call it instead of cures. I found I don't like that word because there's really no such thing as a cure. There's I call it cancer care, correlation and correction. So cancer seems to express itself as a symptom in the body. Oh, now I'm reading and going to lose track. Is there a link to Mr. Epperson's video series? Yes, Anon, I will grab that back here again. You can go to his site, and I'll grab that right now. And he's got all his stuff there. I did drop some PDFs into chat. I hope I ain't robbing Mr. Epperson, but he would rather see you get the information than not have it at all. So since that information is out there on where was it at, the Archives International Archives.org, and also there was one, a PDF. So I'm quite sure that he'd be very happy to know that you are able to review his work, and he has got a lot of stuff that he's done. Pretty fascinating. He's been, since 1962? I mean, he's really one of the grandfathers of the truth movement. You know, he did interviews with William Cooper. There's Anon's dropped G. Edward Griffith interview. Is that with Ralph Epperson there? Anon 7684? Maybe. I have some more on play, but I thought I'd talk a little bit. So, anyways, correlating back to cancer today, one Cancer Kickers I'll be doing. And also, tomorrow I'm doing Off-Grid Journey for Drew Lamb. And you know what? Everything really ties together. It all goes back to conspiracy. You can go back 100 years and for sure tie everything together to a few families there. And if you want to backtrack it further than that, you can go centuries or millennia. in my opinion. Now, a lot of people have a real hard time believing that there would be anybody or any group of people that would, operate daily business at the expense, at the cost of the life and health of their fellow man. But I'll tell you what, these people have no qualms about it. And it's beyond a debate, beyond a theory. It's not conspiracy theory. The fact is, conspiracies exist, and it's the way things are done in this world. People get together. I mean, now, technically, conspiracy is defined as an illegal act, but people conspire all the time, whether it be, for profit and gain, for control, for power. The fact remains is that there is a traceable. Everything's traced back. You can track it back. You can find all these families that, whether it be in a bloodline or people that bring in, they bring them in for the power. People are attracted for any number of reasons. Some people are like politicians. What's the draw there? Some people just want to be in the limelight. Now, I'm going to tell you what. Although I've never met a stranger, I'm not on, nor did I ever come on the radio, because I hoped or thought I'd be famous, or I want to, promote myself. This is something. It was wonderful to find UCY.TV back in about, I guess, when was it? About 2013, I guess. So UCY is a couple of years old, and I believe I found it like 6 months or so in. And I did that through JJ. He was on another network against the wall, and he came over here, and I found my way over here. I had done my first radio broadcast was for the Medical Conspiracy, and that was back about April 2013. I did a 2-hour solo there for Dr. Carpenter, and that network had offered me a spot there, and Jules and I were talking, and I'm for always for the underdog, the little guy, and I was attracted to UCY because of the fact that Jules had put together something that I'd been trying to build myself, through Facebook, which is really a joke. You're so censored, and people really don't see much of stuff you post. So I've got my name connected with UCY on at least a couple of dozen sites. Every time I find something new, I peg it and to bring people back here to UCY, because we have a lot of wonderful people here, and we're all sharing this idea that the world ain't right, and we need to speak up and do our part to change that. Now, like I was saying, I created all these pages on Facebook. I got I was really trying to at the very beginning, I thought, man, I'm going to change the world, and as it turns out, I was one who was changed most of all. I've been one that has been a searcher, a wonderer, investigator, questioner of many things for a great many years. I've been a rebel my whole life. I quit school. Truth be told, I had 8th grade education. I did get my GED, a salutatorian in Texas Department of Corrections, and for a crime I did when I was 15. Texas don't mess around. I ain't trying to make excuses for myself by any means, but the penitentiary was a very good experience. I took some trade classes. I took some college classes and got my GED, like I said, graduated second highest. I'm not a genius. My IQ was 126 when I was 25. I was about half my life ago, and I suspect it's probably a whole lot lower than that right now, as I've had a few knocks to the head. Anyways, I don't claim to be right or to have all the answers, but I certainly am pretty thorough, I think, in looking through things. A lot of times people take their opinion and disregard anybody that has an opinion other than their own. I will allow that you may be right and I may be wrong, but probably not. I'm probably right. Just kidding. Not really. I'm not kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You guys are right sometimes. That might be SLC there, 7684, the Anon, I think, or Hammy. No, I think it knocked more sense out of me, but I didn't need it. So I'm talking to chat now. Listen, so we've got about 49 minutes. I think I may talk a little bit longer. I do have another bit to play from Ralph Epperson where I started at. Now this is a video that my brother put up, creating works for profit. I'm 7 minutes into it. It's an hour and 26 minutes, so we won't be able to finish it. And I'll grab this here. I'll copy and bring it over here. That is the dialectic of the self. Explain that to me. I think that's Mike talking. What does that mean? The dialectic of the self, Vicente Anon says. So I'm dropping this here in the chat. Or I'll have to go look that up. The dialectic of self. That means, I think I do understand. That means that I assume myself to be right, and if I thought otherwise, I obviously think something else, right? I think that is Mike. Or Ham. Love you too, brother. We got some great folks here. And, the chat here, really brings it for, I think, now some hosts don't bother coming here, but for me, I think the chat and those that participate here lets me know that, I'm just not talking out into the airways. And I think, I feel like we ought to have, thousands of listeners here at UCY. And we certainly do have hundreds and the potential for thousands downstream. YouTube, we get, some shows get several hundred hits, especially geoengineering. Excuse me, watch.org with Dane Wigington and Russ Tanner and Greg. I always forget his last name. Okay. So, I guess that's a compliment then. So, Anon says the worldview of bankers and pharma corps that run public policy fell off the turnip truck. Wait a minute, it's not congruent here. Fell off the turnip about 3 weeks ago, and they're recovering nicely. So he says about me and about my dialectic of self, when you question your own motives. So, I guess I'm not that bad off then, right? Yeah, I do. I question my assumptions in light of new information, and I have changed my viewpoint. About 2 years ago. Now, I'll admit I still I believe in a creator. I can understand that some people would say, religion, and I'll say it too. Religion's a tool, but that doesn't mean that God doesn't exist and that God doesn't want to us to come to repentance. And to repent means to return to the ways of God. And as an anarchist, I say that God is an anarchist himself. And why I say that is because that for me, my understanding is God says, do no harm. You have the right to free will and self-determination. But look, you ain't got the right to harm another. So, that's a non-aggression policy of anarchy, rules without rulers. So, my assertion is that God is an anarchist, and religion has obviously, just look, just in the Christian faith alone, look how many different denominations there are. Nobody can seem to agree upon anything. And I studied religion a couple of decades ago. I've been a Bible scholar over the last 20-odd years for the most part, except for of late I left off any study of the Bible. I think I've got it down pretty well that I know what it says and the meaning. And I think a lot of times people are looking more to define God and God doesn't need any help. God is no matter what, regardless of what you, I, or anybody else thinks about him. We all can't obviously be right. So the fact is God is who he is, and when we would seek God, I think we'd want to seek his will, and that is, hey, quit being an evil fuck, all right? Oops, I just said that on the Sabbath. Well, I think God would say the same thing himself if he were here to talk to you, and I think God might talk to you in your own mind. And if God tells you to smite them, Captain G, Gringo, I don't think that's really God talking. So, you've all heard that the devil said his greatest trick was making people believe that he doesn't exist. I'm not sure if that's true or not. War-loving people hate cannabis. Why is that? So I've got some pretty random stuff going here in chat from everybody commenting here. And if you're not listening, or if you're not in chat and you're listening downstream, find your way back over to ucy.tv. You can get there, ucy.tv/news, or any of the shows there. You don't hit the banner up across the top. You've got it's a wonderful place here. Jules has done such a great job. There's news feeds, multiple news feeds. As far as a source for all the information that you need to know what's going on in this world, I don't think you have to go much further than ucy.tv. God is a pimp, butter him up, Banjo says, and God will smite the evil effects, won't they? As long as ignorance persists, fascism will flourish. Yeah. So anybody that supposes to speak for God, I think they're probably deluded. You might speak for what you assume the will of God to be, but anytime it conflicts with the two commandments Jesus gave us, love God and love your neighbor, then you're missing something. So I'll get off the God talk. Hell, ain't none of us perfect, but thank goodness that I think that God pays the way for us to find him, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be people from all faiths that when that knee bows and says that you're Lord, then it's going to be a name that everybody will agree upon at that point in time. I think God himself is on trial. We're now judging God to see if he is fair. And before I get off of this, I'd like to go ahead and just further sum up just a little bit, because God is an antithesis of government. I think the evil that runs this world now, and I say that with this in mind. Had God destroyed evil in the very beginning, the devil, the Satan, or whoever, the rest of creation would have said, look, hey, oh boy over there, he's all light and shiny, and he was saying, hey, you know what, I don't think God's fair, and we ought to be able to do what we want to. So if God had destroyed that, then the rest of creation would have said, look, we got to serve God out of fear. And that's what a lot of religion teaches, to serve God out of fear. I think God wants people to come to him in love. So anyways, had God destroyed evil at the beginning, then the rest of creation would have said, look, oh boy, we can't question God. So God's allowed this to go on for the very fact that all of creation has to say, look, either the devil's right in what he said, or God's right, and in the end, I think God is going to be vindicated. So anyways, now I'm done with that. We've got 40 minutes left, and I was going to play a little more, but I think in honor of what Walter does, let's go examine a little bit about trivium. Now I'm going to go grab my my Flickr pic. This is my This is my award to anytime anybody in chat is using logical fallacies. Cooper, you've got that award a few times. But you know what? I think we all do. So look, here's his picture. Boom, I dropped it. And I've got a lot of information I keep adding to there. Look, I almost got 2,000 views on that. That's pretty cool. So, a logical fallacy is a flaw in reasoning intended to create a certain belief on the part of the receiver. And there is several up to, I guess, maybe up to 100 different listed fallacies, and I've got lots and lots of links. I want to go down here. I'm going to scroll down here, bypass some of these first 24 fallacies that I originally posted with that. And I actually had one person favored my post, Stephen Agostino. Thanks, Stefan or Stephen. All right. So 2 months ago, I posted in comment description of fallacies. In order to understand what a fallacy is, one must understand what an argument is. Very briefly, an argument consists of one or more premises and one conclusion. A premise is a statement, a sentence that is either true or false, that is offered in support of the claim being made, which is the conclusion, which is also a sentence that is either true or false. Now then, there are two main types of arguments, deductive and inductive. A deductive argument is an argument such that the premises provide or appeal to provide complete support for the conclusion. An inductive argument is an argument such that the premises provide or appear to provide some degree of support, but less than complete support for the conclusion. If the premises actually provide the required degree of support for the conclusion, then the argument is a good one. A good deductive argument is known as a valid argument, and is such that if all its premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. If all the argument is valid and actually has all true premises, then it is known as a sound argument. If it is invalid or has one or more false premises, it will be unsound. A good inductive argument is known as a strong or cognate inductive argument. It is such that if the premises are true, the conclusion is likely to be true. A fallacy is very generally an error in reasoning. This differs from the factual error, which is simply being wrong about the facts. To be more specific, a fallacy is an argument in which the premises given for the conclusion do not provide the needed degree of support. A deductive fallacy is a deductive argument that is invalid. It is such that it could have all true premises and still have a false conclusion. An inductive fallacy is less formal than a deductive fallacy. They are simply arguments which appear to be inductive arguments, but the premises do not provide enough support for the conclusion. In such cases, even if the premises were true, the conclusion would not be more likely to be true. That comes from nizkor.org, features/fallacies. Let me scroll down here and have me a sip of something for my throat. Cold coffee. It's so good. Well, I'll be glad to get over this junk in my chest and nose. I think I've snotted 5-gallon buckets. Fool. So, it looks like I have mostly more examples, which is very, very long. And if I go back to Walter's posting a couple of weeks ago on UCY, I added a lot of links there. So there's a whole bunch here. Fallacies are statements that are logically false, but which often appear to be true. Here are the most of the known fallacies in alphabetical order. All right, we're going to click that one. I just put that up. I'm going to go down here. I already know because I've been here, and I'm going to go to another link provided at the bottom, and actually 2 of them. I'm gonna start with Aristotle's 13 fallacies. I'm gonna open that in a new link, and also unique alphabet list of fallacies. I'm going to start with Aristotle's 13 fallacies in a sophistical refutations. Identified 13 fallacies as follows: linguistic fallacies, accent, some of these words will be hard for me. Amphiboly. See, I should have probably taken the time for pronunciation. Equivocation, composition, and division. That's 2 sides of the same coin. And figure of speech. Non-linguistic fallacies are accident, affirming the consequent in a certain respect and simply. Ignorance of refutation, begging the question, false cause, and many questions. See also full alphabetic list of fallacies and the unique. So let's go to the unique list, because I think that was the words were a lot easier to pronounce and not all in Latin as the first list was. Okay, so accent. Emphasis that changes the meaning of the sentence. Accident, a general rule used to explain a specific case not covered by it. Affirming the consequent. If A, then B, B is true, so A is true. And here's that word, amphiboly, right? A sentence has 2 different meanings. Anger, using anger as a weapon. How dare you? An inside job. Appeal to authority. Well, since Bill obviously is telling us that 9/11 was not an inside job by his inflection that these people, how dare them to even insinuate such a thing. Well, we can know that 9/11 therefore is not an inside job, right? Because Bill says. Appeal to common belief, right? If others believe it to be true, it must be true. Everybody knows that 9/11 was not an inside job. You foolish conspiracy theorists, you. Appeal to common practice. If others do it, it must be okay to do it too. Hey, let's all go jump off a bridge. Appeal to fear. Gaining compliance through threat. Yeah. Y'all quit talking about this, or we'll have the Secret Service, secret police pay you a little visit. Maybe a little time in Guantanamo might make you better appreciate, by God, living in America. Appeal to flattery. Make them feel good. Hey, you guys want to be hanging out with us cool folks over here anyways, and not them stupid nutbag conspiracy theorists, right? Appeal to motion. If it feels good, it must be true. Appeal to novelty. Newer is better. Hey, have you heard about the new version of the 9/11 conspiracy? You have spaceships, I tell you. Appeal to pity. Going for the sympathy vote. Yeah, that's like, man, you can't even talk about 9/11. You know all them people that died, man. That's it. You just don't pay to bring that up, man. You're going to make people feel bad. Appeal to ridicule. You idiot. Mocking the other person's claim. Stupid. Appeal to spite. Play on their negative feelings for others. Appeal to tradition. Well, that's just the way it's always been done. Oh, look, I said that, and that's what they got right there. That's pretty good. So, this is the right way. Well, as far as religion goes, by God, and my granddaddy, he was a Baptist, and his daddy before him was a Baptist, and hey, that's just the way I am, too. Is it good enough for my dad and my granddaddy? It's good enough for me. Appeal to trust. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. And I have seen a doctor played on TV, although I'm not one. Argument from ignorance. Accepting circumstantial evidence. Boy, I'll tell you what, early days of Facebook, I fell right for that, you know. So I'm still trying to, kick a bunch of stuff around. Like I said, I ain't got it all figured out, but I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on in this whole world. The assertion, what I say is true. Attack the person. distracting them from their argument, begging the question, circular reasoning to prove assumed premise. Butterfly logic, how people often argue. A complex question is two questions, one answer aloud. Composition, generalizing from a few to the whole set. Conspiracy theory, here we go. Reframe refutation as further proof. Denying the antecedent, antecedent, antecedent. I'm not pronouncing it right, but if A, then B, A is false, so B is false. Division, assuming the parts have the characteristics of the whole. Ecological fallacy, conclusion about individual from group data. Equivocation, equivocation. Single word with more than one meaning. Exception fallacy, conclusions about a group from individual data or data. How you like to say it, data or data. Sorry I can't keep up with y'all in chat over there as I'm reading over here. I'll have to come back and see if anybody's making fun of me because I ain't talking very good. Okay, exception fallacy, conclusions about group from individual data. I think I read that one. They excluded middle. Only extreme views are valid. But, to the other side of that coin is, the dialectic of left-right thesis, antithesis, conthesis, or antithesis, depending on how you want to pronounce that, bring people to a middle ground. Okay, then back, let's see, false analogy. X has property Y, Z is like X, so Z has property Y. False cause. A causes B, but no proof. False compromise. Extreme views are wrong. The middle way is right. Well, yeah. False effect. A is assumed to cause B. B is proven wrong, so A is wrong. False dilemma. Choice is A or B. Rejecting A is selecting B. Yeah. If you don't vote for the guy, then you're throwing your vote away. If you vote for the other guy, you vote and you just throw it away anyways, probably. False effect. A is assumed to cause B. B is proven wrong, so A is wrong. I think I might have read that one. Let me just continue in case I have read these couple ones here. False dilemma. Choice is A or B. Rejecting A is selecting B. 4 terms. All A is B. All C is D, so all A is D. Gambler's fallacy. Chance can be predicted. Not by its very definition. A hasty generalization. Generalizing from too small a sample. Well, hasty, we got that. Illicit major. All X is Y, no P, which is a subset of Y, is X. Therefore, no P is Y. Hope y'all can follow these X, Y's, and P's, and B's, and D's, and A's. Illicit minor, all X are Y, all X are P, therefore all P are Y. In a certain respect and simplicity, extending assumed boundaries too far. Insignificance, making a minor cause seem major. Logical inconsistency, arguments that contradict one another. Many questions, overloading them with lots of questions. Get that all the time. As soon as you ask, you present something, then boom, they come back, they change it, they say, well, what about this, and what about that? And, just bypassing because they know they've hit a stopping point. Anytime you've made a logical conclusion that a person can't get past, and all they don't want to face it and look at it, then that's what's going to happen. They're going to start popping off with some more stuff or more statements or questions. So misleading vividness is next. A memorable few events prove high probability. Missing the point, drawing the wrong conclusion. Personal inconsistency. Past words or deeds do not match claim. Poisoning the well. Discrediting the person before they speak. Post hoc. X follows Y, therefore X is caused by Y. A red herring is distracting with an irrelevancy. If I can remember how that came about, red herring was back in the fox hunting days, and so they would put a fish across the trail to, I guess this was training, maybe see if they could distract the dog off the fox's trail. So that was just kind of like a proving of the dog's ability. I think that may be right, and if I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected. Reductio ad absurdum. False X is silly, so X is true. Oh, here's a good word. Reification. Treating a concept as concrete reality. I won't go into that. Never mind. Repetition. Repeating something makes it more true. And I'll reiterate that. Repeating something makes it more true. So repetition. If I keep saying this, it's true. Repeating something makes it more true. I'm right. Of course I'm right. I'm always right. Ain't I right? I'm right. Right? Okay. Slippery slope. Loosely connected statements with ridiculous conclusion. Social conformance. Agree with me or be socially isolated. Now, you don't want to look like one of them whacked out conspiracy theorists, do you? Straw man. Attack a weak argument used by the other person. Straw man. Yeah. Attack a weak argument used by the other person. Straw mans are used a lot. And it's not necessary to know all these, what the names of all these fallacies are in order to, logically concur that somebody is purposely or unpurposely using fallacies. We do it all the time. We're taught that way. Just watch television, watch the news. They're all fallacies put out there. There's, I mean to tell you, this Bernays and his propaganda over these last almost 100 years is really set in. The education system is it's done its job. It's dumbed people down. I mean, the trivium was part of the quadrivium, which in the late 1700s, a person that after eight years of schooling there, they were smarter than a college graduate today. So, personally, I'm autodidactic, which doesn't necessarily mean that I'm any smarter or less smarter than somebody that's been to university. And the problem with that comes is a person has a lot invested once they have gone through the curriculum, and to admit that they've been misled would be, an admission that, all of that is baseless, that they base their whole life on. So, style over substance. An attractive presentation makes it more right. Undistributed middle. All A is B, all C is B, therefore C is A. Unrepresentative sample. What is true about the sample is also true about the population. Wishful thinking. A is true because I just really want it to be. So, see also full alphabetic list of fallacies. That comes from changingminds.org. Disciplines, arguments, fallacies, unique HTML. I'll grab that and pop that over and come back to chat and say howdy, everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm back over here in chat. And here's that link that I was reading from. All right, I'm going to back up here and see if anybody thinks I'm an idiot or not. Hegelian dialectic. Thank you, Banjo. That's what I was going to say earlier, wasn't it? Thesis, antithesis, and conthesis. Right? Did I say that right? Thank you, Lady Pitbull Wendy. So I'm doing just fine. And on 4579 says, keep on rocking the mic, Vinny. And he'll be right back. And Cooper, come on. You're saying, Joe, question mark, seriously, question mark. I think you're going to get the award again today, Coop. I like you. You got lots of good information, but Hey, gum, Coop. We can't all be right all the time. Let's see. What else? Take care, Banjo. Off to work. And I ain't being mean to you, Cooper. I'm not. I'll pick on somebody else next time. We know it's coming. See you later. And may the force be with you. It's a Disney force now, Wendy says. Joe says the higher CO2 levels may have contributed to the huge trees and large animals that once flourished. Yeah, that's my contention. But before the flood, there was a completely different atmosphere. There was a greater amount of pressure, probably double the pressure, and higher oxygen levels. And that's why, one thing about medicine, if I went to the hospital and was on oxygen, that actually does help heal with this respiratory distress. So, there is a place for modern medicine, but most of it's just, prescribing these petrochemical drugs for these patent medicines to address symptoms and not the cause. So I'm obviously lost here on the CO2, the more oxygen, Coop. Maybe you'll explain that to me. And I hope you don't think I'm being mean to you. Okay, it looks like y'all are talking about the Ice Age. I and my brother actually did pretty good coverage on the Ice Age. And even in mainstream science, there's being a lot being reconsidered concerning Ice Ages and timelines. Okay, and on 4579. I'm not going to pick on Dan no more. Yeah. Okay, just ignore y'all. Jax, he says I'm picking on Coop very hard. Dan B. Cooper. Alright, so let me see. What shall we mess with next? I've done with this one. I'm going to X that one out. Aristotle's, let's X that one out. And, oh, you know what? This one here, I don't reckon I'll even try to, oh, this ain't it. Yeah, it is. This is a lot of Latin. I speak pretty good Spanish, but I could probably work my way through some of them. Looks like. But those were just the Latin for the English, which we already covered, from slippery slope on down to, and I may have been attacking the person there, Dan. So my apologies, Mr. Cooper. You're always welcome here, and your opinion is always welcome and enjoyable. But you do use the fallacy a lot, okay? But I do too. And I like my favorite one is allegory. Now, hey, and if you feel like you're being picked on, thank goodness Walter's not here, because he would be ripping me a big new one, I'm sure. That's what I like so much about Walter is, man, he's one person among a few that is responsible for me having to say, look, to be honest, I'm going to have to, question myself, and I'm going to have to say, hey, I ain't necessarily right? Here's a skeptic.com for critical thinking. It's a critical thinker's dictionary, now available from Abracadabra to Zombies. And you can view all. And here we have critical thinking. The goal of critical thinking is to arrive at the most reasonable beliefs and take the most reasonable actions. We have evolved, however, not to see the truth, but to survive and reproduce. That's it, huh? Critical thinking is an unnatural act. By nature, we're driven to confirm and defend our current beliefs, even to the point of irrationality. We are prone to reject evidence that conflicts with our beliefs and attack those who offer such evidence. Now, maybe Coop's right, and me attacking him disproves that. And I won't even call him specific, but hey, Coop is pretty smart, and he does have a lot of very good discussions. He's certainly right about many things, but just because a person uses logical fallacy doesn't necessarily mean that he is wrong. And that goes back to in the 24 fallacies. That's a fallacy is what that would be called. Give me 1 second. I'm going to mute just 1 sec. Okay, thank you. The items below are listed in alphabetical order. For someone new to the subject, I suggest the following orders of reading. 1. Several essays that they have written on the difficulty of changing minds. Belief armor. Evaluating. Personal experience. Why do people believe in the palpably? I'll have to look that up. Untrue, defending falsehoods, and why woo-woo wins. In the following entry, confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance, communal reinforcement, motivated reasoning, backfire effect, memory, and perception deception. Topical index, critical thinking. Wow, this is going to be a pretty long list, and one that I'm going to trip over my tongue and receive the Ocelli Effect Award for tongue tripping. Thank you, Mr. Chuck Ocelli. UCY.TV, Saturday nights, Thursday nights, and Tuesday nights. Ad hoc, hypothesis, ad hominem, ad populum fallacy, effect bias, affirming the consequent, anchoring effect, apophenia, appeal to authority, appeal to tradition, argument to ignorance, autokinetic effect, availability error, bar none effect, backfire effect, begging the question, and change blindness, clever hands phenomenon, clever Linda phenomenon, clustering illusion, cognitive dissonance, coincidence, cold reading, communal reinforcement, conditioning, confabulation, confirmation bias, continued influence effect, control group study, debiasing, deduction, denying the antidote, antecedent, that must be the way that's pronounced, divine fallacy, evaluating evidence, face on Mars, fallacy, file drawer effect, false dichotomy, false implication, false memory, Fourier effect, gambler's fallacy, hidden persuaders, hindsight biasy, hypersensory perception, ideomotor effect, ignorance as a hindrance to critical thinking, inattentional blindness, induction, infrasound, law of truly large numbers, Littlewood's law of miracles, magical thinking, memory, motivated reasoning, nasty effect, non-falsifiability, non-sequitur, Occam's razor, opinions, pareidolia, perception of deception, placebo effect, positive outcome bias, post hoc reasoning, pragmatic fallacy, proportionality bias, recency bias, regressive fallacy, replication revisited, re-representativeness error, retrospective falsification, selection bias, selective thinking, self-deception, shoehorning. Yeah, shoehorning, I guess, is pretty evident what that means. Cramming it in there and making it fit, right? Single cause bias fallacy illusion, strawman fallacy, subjective validation, subliminal, sunk cost fallacy, suppressed evidence, testimonials, anecdotal evidence, Texas sharpshooter fallacy, I've got all those on that, which is the one I opened there, the dadgum. No, it's lost. It is my picture I posted in there on Flickr. Well, I guess I closed it out, so I'll open that one back up. And I'm going to grab that again. And a lot of these definitions I've been given are all, this is incomplete here, so I'm still working on. So Joe's lost. Dadgummit. Yeah, there's quite a long list. What's going on here? How come? Looks like got a big old gap in between the last chat and where you type in at. Okay, there's that picture again. Everybody go look on it. We'll see if we hit 2,000, I mean. I don't think 1981. I think that's what we had. Everybody in chat, go click on that. Just let's try to get it bumped up 2,000. Numbers don't really mean nothing, but for some reason I feel like, hey, that would be fun to have 2,000. Okay, I'm almost done. Validity, washing card problem, wishful thinking. Okay, so I bet I don't have all those listed in that picture there on Flickr. Okay, so you can see also unnatural acts that can improve your thinking on blogs, posting about cognitive biases, logical fallacies, and illusions. Click here for an alphabetical index of postings so far. Let's click on it and see. Index of unnatural acts. I'm kind of scared with this. I wonder if this is anything to do with what they do up in Maine. I don't know if y'all heard about them unnatural acts committed up there in cold darkness of winter. The Critical Thinkers Dictionary. So this is alphabetical list of cognitive, perceptual, and affective biases, illusions, and fallacies. And this is Blogspot. I'll copy and bring that to you. So I got goofy, huh? Okay. Hold on just a minute. It's warming up here. I'm going to open my door. I had me a fire built earlier. And it's warm sufficiently up here. Oh, okay. I'm certainly certain I'm lost here. Mr. Cooper, I hope you ain't mad at me because I really like you and I enjoy our conversating. So there's that, which their list includes the Critical Thinkers Dictionary, Natural Thinking, a case study, ad hoc hypothesis, ad hominem, ad populum, effect bias, anchoring effect, anecdotal evidence, apophenia, and boy, this is a word I don't know, pareidolia, appeal to authority, to tradition, argument, ad ignoramus, I guess. No, attribution biases, availability biases, backfire effect, begging the question, bias, blind spot. Let's just click on one here and see what we come up with. I want to find one. Let's see. Let's go fallacies informal. Really good site. It's a very interesting topic is logical fallacies. And thanks, Walter, for introducing me to the trivium, which is might not have made me any smarter, but it has made me a better thinker. Informal fallacies of reasoning. Logical fallacies are errors that occur in arguments and in logic. An argument is the giving of reasons called premises. To support some claim called the conclusion, arguments may be classified as deductive or inductive. Deductive arguments assert or imply that the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises. Inductive arguments assert... I'm sorry, I was reading and I was thinking too, so I might have not made that run together right. Deductive arguments assert or imply that the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises. Inductive arguments assert or imply that the conclusion follows with some degree of probability, not necessarily. Deductive arguments are evaluated for validity. If the conclusion of a deductive argument follows necessarily from the premises the argument is said to be valid. The conclusion of a deductive argument does not follow with necessity from the premises the argument is said to be invalid. Validity is determined by the form of the argument, not the truth or falsity of the premises or the conclusion. An argument with the form if P, then Q, P, so Q is a valid argument, no matter what statements are represented. I don't like all these uses of these letters for, they just don't really line up. I'm going to skip through them, boom, and on to the invalid argument. Form just presented is called affirming the consequent. So you can find that there. From that, and we're going to be wrapping down. So what I want to do back here is jump over here back to UCY. I know Tarpley's coming up. Got 14 scheduled posts. I got the weekend post scheduled. Okay, so Tarpley's he's posted, and I have everybody else set to go. Following Tarpley at 2 p.m. all times Eastern is Nuclear Hot Seat with Lib Halevi, podcast number 176. USS Reagan Sailors Lawsuit v. TEPCO clears judicial hurdles, expands. At 3 p.m. Eastern, we have Geoengineering Watch with Dane, Russ, and Greg. I believe this the other fellow's name. Following that, we have Unlock the Door with Michael Cross at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I am back on again with you guys at 5 p.m. hosting Cancer Kickers for J. Cynthia Brooks. Today I expect Daniel Lewis Crumpton. And we are going to discuss cancer care, correlation and correction, and an expose in the fraud of the modern cancer treatment industry. It's death. You get radiated, you get chemo, you get cut. It's death. Okay, and finally tonight, don't forget Chuck Ocelli, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the Ocelli Effect. And then we start off tomorrow with the birth of the new dimension, the flying rainbow lasagna, followed by Drew Shawley, Co-Reality Radio, and another dose of Tarpley, followed by Off-Grid Journey tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. I am hosting for Drew also, and that is followed by Behind the Witch Shed with Hal Anthony at 3 p.m. Eastern. Man, one of the best there is in radio. We got some of the best right here. Even the few that we do syndicates that's not originating from UCY. Followed by Truth or Talk. April and Versting. In the first segment, they discuss media, social networking, internet trolling, and the paid skeptics. This is going to be a very, very interesting show. Followed by Character Matters at 7 p.m. Then we have a little spot in between, followed by Hip Hop for the Politically Erect, All Power to the Positive at 10 p.m. Eastern. And one of the greatest shows. The radio. Boom! Live Free FM, 11 p.m. Thanks, bunches.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific